board. Okay, so what we're going to talk about tonight is tuples and dictionaries. And okay, good. Okay. So last time we talked about lists, and you all know that the list is just one variable to hold more than one value. So that's what a list is. And tuples are exactly like lists. They're also a variable that could hold more than one value, with one major exception, or the case that these things are, the lists are said to be mutable, meaning that we can change them. So when we create a list, we can append some data to the end of the list, or we could insert some data to the list. But tuples are immutable, which essentially means that we can't change them. And one reason that people use tuples is that because they're not changeable or they're immutable, they run a little bit faster. And they've got some extra functions that help us with our coding process. Okay, so tuples and lists are going to look and feel very much the same. So this probably makes sense. If I say list is equal to 1, 2, 3, right? That's just a, what's going on? Am I running out of battery? Oh, shoot, guys, I'll play with you. Forgot to. Forgot to hook up my battery pack, guys. I'll be right with you. Okay? All right. All right, we should be in business now. All right, sorry about that. So if you are watching this recording at a later time, you'll have me moving around a lot, I guess. Okay, so I can say list dot append, and then append, let's say, the number 55, and then when I print the list, you can see. Oh, you guys can see it. So when I run this, let me go ahead and go to options and do show line numbers. So when we run this, you'll notice that we started with 1, 2, 3, and then we appended 55 to it. Now, you'll see that with tuples, we can't do this. So if I say name equals to foo bar and chart, notice I just created a tuple. And the only difference between the tuple and the list is that the list has a square brackets, but tuples have parentheses associated with them. You'll see in a few minutes, dictionaries will have braces. So that's how Python can tell the difference between a list, which is a bunch of numbers or anything really inside a pair of brackets, or a variable within a pair of parentheses, and that would be a tuple. So when I say print name, you'll notice that when I run this, you'll see one major difference between the output. Notice that the lists appear in square brackets, but tuples appear with parentheses. So that's really it as far as the differences. Now, if I say t is equal to like that, that creates an empty tuple. So if I say print t, that's just going to give me essentially a tuple with nothing in it, and it's just going to show up as a parentheses with nothing else, with nothing in it. So that's how tuples work. Now, T1 equals to 1. That just says T1 is just equal to the value 1. T2 equals to 1 comma. Now, the difference between these two, if you don't put this comma right after the value, then Python will treat it as a regular variable or a regular value. So when you see t equals to 1, that's just the number. The value of t is equal to the number 1. When Python sees the 1 and a comma, then it says, oh, okay, well, that is a tuple. So again, the best way to see the difference is if we just printed the two, if we just printed T1 and T2, you can again tell the difference between them. And of course, whether they're tuples or regular variables, the other way to tell them apart is that tuples have functions associated with them, so that we could like find the length of a tuple, or we could look at the contents of a tuple. So they're just functions associated with them. So just look at the last two answers. You see 1 is just a numeric 1, and then 1 comma, that just tells you that it is a tuple. So so that's essentially what tuples are. You define them with a pair of parentheses, and then you'll assign values to them. Now, here's another example here. So I'll just save time. I'll just copy it and we'll go through it together. So my tuple is equal to, these numbers right there. Now, from what you see here, are we accessing tuples just like lists? Or is it different based on what you just see based on my example? Do they look like just like lists to you? Remember, you use the bracket and we could slice the list, or in this case, tuple. And the answer is yes, because the way you access a tuple is just by its element number. So just like a list, this is at position 0, 1, 2, and 3. So what do you think I'm going to get? What's the first output I'm going to get based on this output? What's my tuple sub 0?
1.
What's the first output I'm going to get?
1.
Julie, can you say something else again? I think.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. My speakers are off. That tells you how prepared I am, right? So yes, sub 0 would be 1. And then my tuple sub minus 1. What does that give me?
1000.
Yep, the one from the end. And then 1 colon. What does that give me? Remember, 1 is the starting position. If you don't tell it the ending position, it just goes all the way to the end. So that would be 10, 100, and 1,000. And then how about my tuple colon minus 2? Remember, if you don't specify the first element, it will start at 0. So what do you think that's going to give me for this guy? 0 minus 2. So this is minus 1. This is minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, so on. So what am I going to get based on this?
If it starts at 0s, it would print 1,100.
No. It starts at here, right? Starts at 0.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to give me 1. So remember, this is -1. This is -2, right? So it's just kind of starting from reverse. It's going to go backwards, essentially. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't include the -2, but it's going to be everything before it. So it'll just give you 1 and 10.
Oh, okay. I thought it was actually going backwards.
No. It'll start going from from the beginning, but within that range. Yep. So again, the nice thing about these is you should always verify those and make sure you understand how the slicing works, because they give you, in your exam, they'll ask you to they give you something like this, and they'll say, well, what is the output of this segment? So it's good to kind of make sure you verify it for yourself. Now, I can also use a loop. So I can say for E in my tuple, remember the E is just a variable. I could call it anything else. So I'm just going to say, hey, I just want to iterate or go through all of the elements. So I say print E. So what does that do? What do you think this is going to print? I'm going to go ahead and comment these guys. So I guess the question is, yeah, can I iterate through a tuple? And the answer is yes. So what will it give you?
1, 10, 100, 1,000.
And because I'm using a print, right, will it be on the same line or will it go on different lines?
Different lines.
Because of the print, right? If I said and equals to space, then it will be on the same line. It will look just like that. So this is another way to display it, is just by iterating through it, right? And that way we could do a lot of processing with these tuples. Now, if I go in here and I say my underscore tuple dot append, right? I want to append the number like 32, right? So and then I'm just going to print my tuple. So what do you think is going to happen when I run this code? And I'm just going to, comment that line too, because you already know what that looks like. So what do you think is going to happen? Will it print 1, 10, 100, 1,000, and 32? Because I'm appending 32 to it?
No, because tuples are immutable.
Exactly, because I can't append to them, right? So when I run the module, it's going to crash right there. And it says, hey, the tuple doesn't have an attribute called append. It says I can't, do anything with it. So yes, with tuples, you cannot append them. You can't insert them because they would, of course, if I take that out, that would work just fine. So yeah, and then no, you could use the len function. You could use append with a plus sign. If you want to add more stuff to a tuple, you could use the plus sign. You could even multiply the tuple. So let's see what happens with this example. What do you guys think is going to happen? Like that. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So here's my tuple, 110, 100, right? Then I say T1 is equal to my tuple plus. So looks like I can't append to a tuple, right? But I can just make it, I can operate it, operate on it using a plus sign, which just adds to it. Multiply will just repeat. So it will repeat 3 times. So what do you think is going to happen when we write the length of T2? What do you think the length of T2 is going to be?
Eight.
8, because you're saying, so let's do this. I'm going to print T2 like that. So in other words, I'm going to actually, let me see, let's just do these 2 beforehand so we could kind of see. And it's always a good idea to do these things, say, oh, if I print the T1, T1 is just going to be my tuple. So I'm thinking T1 is going to be 110, 100, added to it 1,000 and 10,000. T2 is going to be my tuple times 3, right? So will it be 110, 100, 110, 100, 110, 100, kind of multiply, and then the length. Now, what do you think this will do? Print 10 in my tuple. Just if you had to guess, what do you think this will give me? Well, first of all, what kind of value will this give me? Is it a number? Is it a Boolean? What do you think this is going to return to me?
A Boolean.
That's a Boolean, right? Because you're checking for something. So what do you think? Is it true or false? Because Booleans could either be true or false.
True.
Because it just says, is T in my tuple? And of course, the answer is yes. So that's true. and then minus 10 not in my tuple. Is that true or false?
True.
True, because minus 10 is not in this. So imagine if you had a tuple of a bunch of numbers or a bunch of names, right? We could use the in or not in operator to search to say, does this exist? So let's go ahead and run this thing. So what we want to concentrate is on what is T1, what is T2, and then what is the length of T2, because of course, that's going to tell us what that multiplication did. So if I move this over, so what happened there? So remember, T1 became 1, 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. You see what happened to that list? 3 times, right? 1, 2, and 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, right? So the length was 9. So I think, Julia, you said it was 8, right? And
Yeah. I was thinking that because like starting from 0.
I see. Yeah. Well, remember, again, the index numbers of these things always starts at 0, but the length will always be a value, right? So if you have a list with 5 elements, you're going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but there will be total of 5, but it starts at 0. Yep. So that's it. So the length became 2, and that's how we do that. Now, some other things we could do with tuples is we could, assign values to them using values, using variables. So you can do a lot of stuff with tuples, but again, as far as a certification exam is concerned, just know the basics, even though with these exams, who knows, maybe they'll test you on something that you haven't seen, but hopefully at least you can guess, right? So here's V is 123, T1 equals 1 comma, right? That means I've created a tuple with just the value of 1. T2 is 2, and T3 is 3 comma V. So it just tells you that, the value I insert in a tuple through an assignment statement, it could be a variable. Of course, could this have been user input? So could we have asked the user to give us a value so we could insert it in a tuple? And the answer is yes. Anytime you see a constant, it can always be an input to the program. So this is obvious what it's going to do, right? It's going to print 1, inside the pair of parentheses, 2, and 3 with 123, right? 1 and 2 and 3, 123. Again, without this comma, it may not work. So look, if I take out the comma, right, I just say T1 equals 1, okay? And then, I'll run it, although I'm not using it, but just see how it works. So T1 is now the number 1, but it's no longer a tuple. So if we're going to, apply a function to it, it won't work with T1. So if we want to make it a tuple, we always make them a comma. Now, one of the things you can do with tuples, and we talked about this last time, this is something that Python lets you do. You can assign values to variables. Essentially, you can have more than one variable on the left. Usually all languages, you have one variable on the left and then one value on the right. But with Python, you can actually do this. And all this does, not that it does any kind of magic, all it does is just swaps them. It says, well, T1 is T2, T2 is T3, and T3 is T1. So it just swaps them in place, essentially. So if I print these values here, so you could see the difference. So remember, after this statement, T1 is the same as T2. So what's my first line of output that I'm going to see on the screen? Based on this guy. Ideas? All I'm doing is I'm just showing you what we can do with tuples, just like we could do with normal variables. So what do you think is going to print right there?
2.
T1 is 2 comma, right? Inside the pair of parentheses. Yep. And then T2 becomes T3, which is 3 comma 123. And T3 becomes what T1 was. So it's just effectively a swap. The nice thing about this is you do this all in one statement. Otherwise, you have to like create a temporary variable that could hold the first one when we're making an assignment. I don't write over it. So it became 2, 3, 123, and 1. So it's kind of neat in the sense that you can just, and by the way, we could do this with regular variables. Last time we saw we could also do it with lists. You could also do them with tuples. Okay. Now here's an example. Let's say I want to read a set of income values, right? And store in a tuple, right? So this is what we want to read: age, income, name, of course, anything you want. So what I'll do is I say income equals to empty tuple, right? There's nothing in the tuple. Then maybe I'd say for X in range 3, let's just do 3, right? Again, you can do as many as you want. And so what we want to do is we want to ask the user to give us an income value. So I say inc equals, again, hopefully this all makes sense because you guys have done stuff. So it says enter your income. And then, so I have this variable inc. Now the question is, how do I add this income to my list, or in this case, my tuple? How do I keep adding it? Any ideas of what we could do? So I say income equals income plus, remember the only way we could add things to a tuple is using the concatenation or the plus operator. And then I want to do inc, which is that value, followed by a comma. Again, if I don't make it a comma, then it doesn't think it's a tuple. So notice now when I print income like that, so this program is going to ask me for 3 income values, and it's just going to essentially read the data and store it into the tuple. So if I say 2,300, that's one income, let's say 5.9, I'm just making numbers up, 1, 2, 3, 4. And all it's doing is just adding them to my tuple. So notice the final value of the tuple is a list of values essentially with those values. So this is how we get data into a tuple. Now, if this was a list, what did we use in order to populate a list? Does anyone remember the name of the function that does that? The name actually.
Append.
Append, right? The append or insert, you could use it, either one of those. But for tuples, remember, we can't use append, we can't use insert because we can't mutate them. We can essentially add to them, but we can't really change them. All right. No, so that's it. So that's tuples. The next thing I want to talk about is the concept of dictionary. Now, by the way, the list or the tuple, they're called a sequence. The reason they're called a sequence is because we start from the first element and then go to the next element, to the next element, right? We just keep traversing through a list or a tuple. A dictionary is not a sequence, so a dictionary, you can actually navigate through it using index numbers. So just remember this, and then there's some other stuff to it that goes with it, and it is mutable. So you could actually change it. So again, we do these through provided functions or methods. Okay. Now the name dictionary kind of gives it away as far as like what it is. It looks and feels just like a dictionary. So when you guys look at, like, let's say a translator, right, which is dictionary, the dictionary of translation, or a dictionary where you have a word and then you have a meaning, right? So the dictionary data structure, or the dictionaries in Python, essentially allow you to store data in key and a value. So in other words, you could say, the key is, let's say, California. right? And the value would be Sacramento, right? So we could have a dictionary like that, right? So if anyone looks up California, they can pick up the state, the capital for that state. So that would be one, right? Now, is any French speakers here? Does anyone know French? French? No? So cat in French apparently is chat, right? I'm pretty sure it's not pronounced chat, but we're just gonna go with it. So imagine you have a dictionary that says, oh, the cat is cat is chat, and dog is, oh, what is dog? A dog is a chien, I guess. Chien. Like, I can't even, I don't know. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, right? So you could say, well, could I create a dictionary in my code? And then be able to have the users, right? Imagine you store, 2,000 translated words, and you have a program where the user types in the English word, they get the French translation, right? So any kind of data that lends itself to a key and a value, like the state name and the capital, a person name and their social security number, a foreign language translation, all those lend themselves to a good use for dictionaries. So if I create English to French, so I'm just going to say, you know what, in my program, I'm going to create an English to French dictionary. So the way I do that is I use a curly brace. So list uses bracket, tuples list parentheses, and dictionaries use brackets. So then all I have to do is just tell it, here's the word cat, colon, so it's always a key followed by its corresponding value, so chat, right? Then I could say dog is, don't use colon, don't use commas or anything, otherwise it will break it. So Chan, and let's do horse, which is I believe is a cheval, I think. Yeah, cheval, sounds right. Like that, right? And there, I just created a English to French dictionary. So of course, in the real world, I won't do this like in my program, right? I maybe read a file that has, the cat. I mean, the word and its translated word from a file, so I don't have to type, 1,000 of these things. For readability purposes, notice we separate them by commas, just like we do with with the tuple. And then just for readability, okay, you don't have to do this, but this just makes your dictionary looks a little bit more readable. That's all, right? So I just created a English-French dictionary. Now, can I create a phone dictionary? Well, yeah, I could say, boss's number is 121212. And Jim's number is let's say, oh, actually I could use just numbers, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and do that. Again, for readability, I'll probably put them on different lines. I put a comma in there. That's going to be, oh, that comma is okay. This comma is going to kill me. You have to always have a key followed by a colon by a value. So that's what we call them, key value. And that. So if I say print English French, English to French, notice as soon as I do that, or if I say print phone, that's just going to dump the contents of that dictionary. So it's really not readable per se, right? Because it's just going to write it as a list, in this case as a dictionary. So, it won my income, so I should get rid of that. So no, this is what we wanted to see, right? The same data that we actually produced, and then, that we told it, and the same data right there. So your homework assignment, by the way, that's due next week is just an example of, just redoing recreating a tuple and a dictionary. So this lecture is going to answer all of your questions. Of course, you're going to read the book to your Net Academy material. So let me go back to this one and just comment this so that way I don't see that anymore. And okay, so we could print them just like we did. By the way, if I just wanted to create a list, an empty list, let's say email, I'll just do that, you know. So maybe I don't have their emails. And then once I get the emails, then I can add them to my list. Now, can I do this? Print English, French, sub 0. Oops. Like that. What do you think? Do you think this is going to give me an error message, or will it give me cat and chat? What do you think? Error? Or because I'm saying sub 0, maybe I'm thinking that's the first element, that's the second element, and so on. So what do you think? Am I going to get this? It says English, French, sub 0, or will I get an error?
I'm going to guess an error because you said that dictionaries are not a sequence.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Yep, that's what I expect. And sure enough, it's going to give you a message. Key error is 0, not very descriptive, but it's just telling you that, hey, you can't use it as such. So, but the proper way, though, would be to do this. In other words, you say, give me the value of that dictionary at a given key. So if I say cat, now that should give me the translation of cat, which should be chat, right there, right? So that's how we refer to it. Now, what do you think if I said cat? You know, I want this one. What do you think? I just misspelled cat, I guess. So it's just going to look for that key inside that dictionary. Obviously, it's not going to find it. So what are we going to do? Or what do you think it's going to do?
Error?
It's going to error saying that, again, cat is not found, right? So yeah, now same thing here. Let's say I say, you know, P equals to input, you know, whose phone number do you want? So I'm asking the user to tell me, you know, to give me a phone number, and I can then give them. Let me just take these numbers out because that is a number. So so if I say, you know, I want the phone number for that person, would I do something like this? Print phone sub P. Do you think that might work? I could have asked for the, you know, the English French would have been the same. So if they say boss, it's going to give me this, right? If they say Jim, it's going to give me that, right? So does this work, do you think, given what we just talked about?
Only if the input that they put in was spelled correctly.
Exactly. So if I run this thing and if I say, yes, I do want Jim's phone number, right? It will give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I ran it, but I don't, you know, spell it right, or maybe, you know, I want Joe's number, right? Well, Joe doesn't exist. So again, what does it do? It gives me an error message. So based on what we just talked about, is there something I could use not to get that error? I want to print this only if I can find that name, right, in my phone number. So I've got a dictionary of all the phone numbers, you know, names and phone numbers. Can I use that in?
Would you use like an if statement? Like if it is in this list, then you print it. If it's not, then you print something else.
Exactly, right? So if I say if P, right, if that name that the person gave me is in the phone, right? If it's in that dictionary, if you can find it, then print it, right? Otherwise, what do I do? What do I tell this user?
and person's number isn't in the list. I don't know, something
I
weird.
cannot find the person, right? Something like that. Yeah, exactly. Just give them a message, right? So of course I could print P so they'll know maybe this misspelled it or something like that. So if I say I want Bob's number, right? Then it's just going to say I can't find the person. I guess if I put comma P, then it will say I can't find Bob in there. And if I run it, of course, you just saw that if I do give it a good thing and a good number in there, then it should work just fine. You know, so if I say I want the boss's number, that's how I do that. BOSS. All right. And when I do that, it comes out with the boss's number. Oh, it did. Oops. Let me close this. Let me kill this. We write it again, and it should have worked. BOSS, and that's the phone number for boss, right? So that's how we process dictionaries. And so the nice thing about dictionaries is that they come with you know, tons of functions. So something like this, you know, if I want to print that dictionary, just for the sake of time, I'll just, you know, copy the code, but hopefully once we go through it, you understand that just like a for loop, right? It's just, you know, just like a list. You say for E in English, French, right? So E is going to be your key value. It's going to say print the E and then English, French, sub E. So what it's going to do is going to print the cat followed by a, you know, a hyphen and a greater than sign and the corresponding. So it's all it is just showing you that I could use a for loop to run through each key. And of course, by doing that, the output looks a little bit nicer. I should have commented that out. So notice you've got that data coming out. So let me go ahead and.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Does it go the other way around? If I wanted the French word, does it give me the English word, or does it, can I
No,
look for it?
It
So it only
goes.
goes in one direction?
Yep.
Okay.
So there are some restrictions with them. You know, the biggest one is that, yeah, you can't go from value to the key. You can't say, hey, here's the French word, what's the English word? If you wanted to do that, what you had to do is to create another dictionary, right? And that would be French to English. That make sense? Yeah. Those keys, by the way, these key values must be unique. In other words, I can't have another cat with a different definition. That makes sense? So keys, there's only one cat, one dog, right? And the other thing, you know, the len function also gives us the value, and you know, so I could just say print. You know, if I said len of English French, let's see if I oops, len of English French, just so you can see that we could also navigate or actually have access to the length of these things, because the good thing is they will allow us to maybe go through a dictionary using how many there are. So notice the length is going to be 3. If I add another one, it's just going to give me, so the length just tells me how many pairs of key values I have. So
Can I ask another question?
sure, yeah.
Can the values be, do the values have to be unique, or can they repeat?
Oh, no, the values could repeat.
Okay.
Just the key has to be unique. Yep.
The second question was, I actually forgot the second question. Give me a second.
Okay.
Let me see if I remember later.
Okay, good. Now, let's see. Okay, we did the, no. So let's see what this does and see if you can tell the difference between, I'll undo this one while you remember this. Yeah, I'm gonna bring this guy back. Okay, so remember this one went through the, you know, through each key and printed the values, you know, E and then the English French. You can also navigate through it using this function called keys. So the function keys actually goes through all the keys in your dictionary. You'll see pretty soon, you'll see another function called, so I'll write this here. Keys is a function. It's actually a method. By the way, how many of you guys are going to take my, or hopefully if it is offered, the second class, the Python 2 class? Anyone? Julia? Alma?
Do you know if it's going to be offered this fall or not until next summer?
Yeah, it would most likely be offered this fall, and it'll be offered to you guys first. So I think the reason they're not announcing it yet is because they want to make sure you guys get in, and then we get more people. Yeah. So if you guys come back into the Python 2, we'll talk about methods, which is different than functions. So anything that has the dot operator is referred to as a method. Anything that doesn't have it, like len, doesn't get used with a period, then that would be called a function. But that's okay. So keys and items. So do you see how this is just another way of navigating through? So this is how that works. I want to run that, and let's see. It should work. I want to go through some of those self checks that we have. Okay, so you see how we get the exact same output, or depending on how we navigate. I mean, to me, this is easy, right? Because it just says go through each list, right? And then give me the value. So E would be the key, and then English, French, sub E would be the value.
I remembered my second question.
Uh-huh.
Can you sort a dictionary alphabetically?
Yeah, there is a function called sorted, and I'll show you that. Yep. Good. So here, actually, look at this. By the way, in the old days, I mean, old days meaning a few versions before Python 3.6, when we created the dictionary, Python just put them in any order that it wanted to say, right? But right now, with anything after 3.6, they're always ordered. So when you entered in that order, when you print it, you're going to get that same order. In the old days, you just printed and then you might get different. No, of course, with a translator, does the order matter, by the way? Like if I create a translator dictionary, does it matter if I tell it cat first before dog? It shouldn't, right? It's just like flipping through the pages of a dictionary, right? It's just doesn't matter how you store it. All you have to be able to get that. Now, so that was so. This is what right here, Alma. You see where it says sorted of the English. So it's the same thing as before. I just ran sorted. So if you notice, you kind of see a difference. I think the order I created. They're ordering them by keys, by the way. So you have cat, dog, horse, and cat, dog, horse. You can really tell if I actually went in here. Let me do that. Again, it doesn't matter how you define them, right? So the first one is going to come out as cat, horse, dog. But then when I sort it, it should be cat, dog, horse. So since I had them in order, it doesn't matter. So you see how it says cat, horse, dog? But then when I sorted them by keys, then it sorted them. Yep. So let's see. What do you think? Okay, now here's a usage of a method called items. And by the way, one of the things that you guys, hopefully will get out of a class like this is really understanding the basics, right? And then maybe looking at the Python documentation for dictionaries and see what else is out there, right? Say, well, what is there a method? Is there a function that's going to help me out with my program? And then all you have to know is, how to use it and what does it do? So this items is just going to return each key value pair as a tuple, which is kind of nice because then we could use some of the functionalities of tuples and we can make assignments. So I just want you to see the difference. When I say give me the values of that, notice how it comes out as this. Do you see that you've got these parentheses? Remember, parentheses are tuples, right? So that could be, this method called items, they're just going to give you distinct tuples of each pair of key and a pair. Again, the key would be like I said, the name of a person and their phone number, the name of a person and their age, or, like we just saw, just like a regular dictionary. Now, we could add we could change the dictionary value by just, remember, they are mutable, right? So I can say, English French for cat is no longer chat, is menu, right? So I can add it, and then if I print it, let's just see. That way you can see that, you know what, I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just do one more run. Let's just get rid of all of these. So, so obviously you don't want to like memorize any of this stuff. Sometimes you may just want to say, well, okay, that's what it does. So notice the dictionary changed from cat to menu. It was chat before. If you want to add a new one, we could use this kind of syntax. Essentially, all you're going to do is you say, I want swan to be this signe or something like that, right? So by doing that, I'm just going to get a new addition. Now again, the new value goes to the end of the dictionary, and it doesn't really matter because we could always sort them to put them in order. So you can make modification using the, you can, add, change the cat to menu because it already exists, add one. So if swan doesn't exist, it will simply add it. So do you see how this works? If the key already exists, it'll simply change the value, right? If the key doesn't exist, it'll just add a new one. So that's kind of nice. We could also use the update function. This way, I'm just going to use another method called update. So it's just going to add duck to it. And if I ran it, it'll essentially do the same thing as addition. So notice if I make this, the list is just getting bigger and bigger. There is another function called pop item. Pop item essentially give you the last value in the list. So if I say French pop item, what do you think it's going to print for me based on this printout? It's going to give me the last value in the list. Any ideas? And notice I changed my list a little bit from the first three. Any takers? Pop item gives me the last item in the list. What will it give me?
Duck. Would that be duck?
Yep, duck, right? So that just gives me the last value in the list. And if this ever pops up, it should give me, oh, did I print it? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, pop item actually takes out, so I guess I was wrong. Pop item, it just pops it or takes out the last value. So notice my list is a little bit smaller now, right? If I do another pop item, it's just going to get rid of this one, right? So this is a good way to essentially remove items from a list. So pop items just remove so it doesn't give you the last item, it removes the last item. And let's do one of these just to see what you guys think it will do. So I'm saying for P in range of len of English. So what are the values of P? That kind of cryptic. What are the values of P? It says in range of length of that. So first of all, what is the length of that list?
Three.
Shouldn't it be 4 now? Because you
Yeah,
also added swan.
Yeah, because we added it, right? All I'm saying is it's just going to go from 0 all the way to the length, right? And then I just say pop it, right? So essentially it's going to call that pop item as many times as I have a list. So what do you think it's going to print right there? Any guesses? I'm just saying, hey, pop that last item, go back, pop it again. What do you
An
think?
empty dictionary.
What will it be? An empty dictionary, right? Essentially, I deleted my dictionary by just copying the items, right? So notice there's nothing there. Yep. So that's, we could do that. And let's see. Okay, now the next thing I want to do, since I have your, one of the things I want to do is, let's look at some of these self-checks, which you guys do this, right? Those of you who are actually reading the book, do you guys do these self-checks? Yeah. So let's go ahead and, run through these together. And maybe, we'll find out some new things. And then, I got about 8 more minutes. But we could go a little bit longer than that if we want to. So what do you think happens? What happens when you attempt to run the snippet? My tuple is 1, 2, 3, and I say print my tuple sub 2. What do you think is going to print?
Three.
So 0.
Would it be 3 comma?
0, 1, and 2. No, that's a good question. Will it be 3 comma, right? Or will it just be a value, right? So remember, I'm just printing it. I'm not assigning it to another tuple. So I would say it's just a value, right? So when you click the check button, of course, it's a good idea to do these things. So we'll just print 3 to the screen, right? Now, if I'd assigned it to a tuple, yeah, it would be 3 with inside the pair of parentheses. Okay, how about this? You have a tuple 1, 2, 3, A comma B comma C equals to tup. Now this process is called what is called unpacking, and essentially what it does, it just says I'm going to take that first value, dump it to A. I'll take the second value and assign it to B. So this is called unpacking. So what do you think is going to print based on what we just talked about? ABC equals to this tuple. So by the way, you could print the values of ABC to see it. So what do you think the values of ABC are?
1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3. And then what is it really printing? 1 times 2 times 3. So the correct answer should be
6.
6, right? So that's it will print 6 and then it will unpack it. Again, by all means, if you go through these checks and if one of them doesn't make sense, email me, email Kyle, put it in the discussion item. I know you guys aren't really using that discussion forum for questions, but I haven't gotten any emails or anything from you guys either. So, all right. So here it says complete this code, right? To count. So there is a method named count, right? Because it says use the count method to count the number of 2's, right? We just want to know how many 2's are in this tuple. So it looks like there is a method named count, right? That counts how many of an item exists. So what do you think you're going to write there? Duplicates equals to what? I have a tuple with a bunch of data, and I want to count the number of 2's. So what do you think I should put there? Take a guess. Would you say count, open parentheses, tup? But that would be a function, right? Because you're not using it with the tuple. So if you had to guess, I guess it would say tup, right? Dot count, open parentheses, and what do I want inside that open parentheses? The number 2, right? So again, with a lot of these, it's best to just grab it right there, and then go to like your Python idle, and just try it, so let me go ahead and grab all of these. And what I'm going to do is just go right there, right? Again, if I was a guessing person, I'll just say tup, right? That's the name of my tuple. Dot count, because they said it's a method, so it has to be something dot, and then tup. And then I can print, well, maybe I'll just call this D, and then print D. No, I don't have to type anything. So if you say count of 2, then all it's going to do is just going to count. Now, so it gives you 4 because there were, 4 2s. Now, without this count method, there's some coding involved, right? Because I have to go and say, hey, have I seen this 2? If I see it, then have a counter that appends it, right? So in other words, I have to start from the beginning of the loop and say, hey, is it 2? If it is, count plus plus or plus equal to 1. But just using one simple method that comes with tuples make our life a lot easier. So when I do the check, sure enough, that was the answer. Here, I have a program that all they want is I have a dictionary, D1, I have another dictionary, D2, and then D3 is just an empty dictionary. The question is, hey, I want the code to put these together. So I have this, big dictionary that essentially appends or updates or adds stuff to it. Notice they give you the for loop. They're saying for item in D1, D2, right? They just want us to write something here. So if I have a method called update, remember update will just update the dictionary, then my guess would be D3, right? D3 dot update, right? This item, right? Because the item is going to be, because the item is in D1 and D2, it's just the item is going to grab this and it's going to update my D3. So again, if you're just guessing and you're just trying to get at that syntax, it's best to just try it out. Update is a good one. It adds it. So if I was guessing, I would just say D3 dot update. And what do I want to update it with? I want to update it with this item. The item is going to go through every one of those lists, right? It says item in D1 and D2. So now when I print D3, you'll notice my brand new dictionary is going to include both of those. So again, update is a nice little function that, notice if I make this a little bit larger, that's what we get, right? Adam Smith, and then it just combines or concatenates those items. Here is, so again, if you do a check, obviously you get the answer. Here's another list now, right? So I have a list with car, Ford, flower, and tulip. How would I convert a list to a tuple? Is there a function that converts a list to a tuple? Chances are the answer is yes. I guess the biggest question is, why would I want to convert a list to a tuple? Because tuples are faster, right? In memory, they run faster. And tuples may have some real neat functions or methods the lists don't have. So I start with a list, but then I make it a tuple like that. So all you have to do, you say T equals tuple on my list. So if you just show the answer, again, it's always a good idea to check them out anyways. The correct answer would be, did I uncheck it? All right. So T equals tuple on my list, right? Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We're almost done. What is this? This is a tuple, right? How do I convert it to a dictionary? Well, there is a function called dict, D-I-C-T, short for dictionary, that does the same thing. So the statement would be colors dictionary equals dict, open parentheses, colors, right? That's how we change the tuple. Again, why would you want to take a tuple and convert it to a dictionary? Because dictionaries now give us keys and values, and we could search through them a lot faster, and they give us a whole bunch of functions. All right, so dictionary. Yes, question?
Oh, I was going to say, is there a way to convert a list to a dictionary? Or would you have to convert the list to a tuple and the tuple to the dictionary?
List to a tuple and then tuple to dictionary. Yeah, there's no, nothing to go from list to dictionary, unless, they've added it, but they shouldn't. Look at this one. You have my dictionary as this, right? A1, B2. And then copy dictionary is dictionary.copy. And then I say my dictionary.clear. In other words, I'm going to clear the dictionary. Does that mean I also clear the copy? Or will the copy still have its data? If you had to guess.
Are they like lists where everything is in the same memory, or are they different?
Exactly. If I didn't use this dot copy, if I just copy them, if I just make an assignment, then clearing one will clear the other. But since I make the copy of it using this method, now they're looking at two different areas in memory. Does that make sense? So in this case, because I'm what is called deep copying, I'm using a method to do this, then it will definitely keep it. So when I say print, my dictionary is still 1 MB. Again, if you wanted to test this, just take this code and take away the copy and then run that, and you'll see that dictionary, your copy dictionary will also be empty, right? And one more example. And it says, what is the output of the following program? So all we want to do is go through this program and see, well, what do we get when we run this code? So first of all, colors. Is it a tuple, a dictionary, or a list? Is colors a tuple, a dictionary, or a list?
A dictionary. It has brackets.
It has
No.
braces, right?
Braces.
Braces, and it has these colons, right? Key, colon, value, right? Now, this is the key, right? White. But what is the corresponding value? Is it just one value or a bunch of values? Is the value, you remember with the translation, there was only one value for, for the translation of cat? With this example, I guess the question is it possible for my values to be a tuple or a list? And the answer is
yes.
Yeah, dictionaries let you do that, which is neat, right? Because now you're saying, hey, the color white is this list of values, 255, 255, 255. So the question is, can this be a tuple? The answer is yes. So that's how we do that. They could have just been regular variables. I could have said white, colon, 255, right? And that would have been just fine. Now, what does this for loop do? It says for call and RGB. Remember, these are just regular variables, right? You could say X or Y, A or B. In colors.items, right? Now remember, items is going to allow me to navigate through every item or every row in that dictionary. So what's the first thing that's going to print for this? Print. What's the very first value that gets printed? As a result of this statement?
Would it be white?
Would be white, because we're going through the list. The first one is white, followed by a colon, right? Followed by the RGB being the values, right? So it's going to print a tuple of 255, 255, and 255, right? So just to show you again, instead of clicking the check, let's just go here, go there, and let me just do all of that like this. So what I expect to get is just a printout of my data, right? It's just what I gave it. So notice white followed by the tuple, gray followed by tuple. Now the question is, so by the way, so now that I have this, do you think I can ask the user to give me a color and I tell them the color numbers?
Only if it exists in the list.
Yeah.
Or in the dictionary.
I'm saying code-wise, can I ask the user, right? So the user says, I want to know what red is, right? And then, so you just use the in operator, right? If it's in there, I'll tell you what the value is. Otherwise, I'll give you an error message. Okay, so again, if you check the answer, but again, most of these, if I were you, I'll just actually run it so I could see, oh, one last thing before we go. I want to try this. I haven't tried this. So if I say sorted, I want to see if I can, if I say, hey, sort everything for me. Not that I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we'll see. Did this sort it? Did the sorted function? Notice they weren't sorted. So now I have green, gray, red, and white, right? So they're sorted by, what does sorted sort by? Does it sort by the values or does it sort by the key?
By the key.
Yep. So that's it, right? So that's how we could do sorted. So as far as your things, again, make sure you, these summaries are also good. I know I didn't have time to go through them, but hopefully you go through these summaries. They kind of give you a good overall picture of what you should have learned, throughout the reading of your book. As far as homework assignments, by the way, has Kyle been grading your assignments? Do you guys have grade? If you turned in an assignment, have you gotten your grade and feedback? Yep. If you didn't, by the way, just let me know or let Kyle know. We'll double check. So notice this homework 6, I've extended it till next week because one of you asked me if I could extend it, and of course the answer is yes, because I didn't want to extend this homework 2 this far in in the course, but I'm perfectly fine to do that with this, which I did. And then this one, again, this shouldn't take more than half an hour. If you understood the lecture material today and you just did a little study, this homework shouldn't take more than half an hour to an hour at most. Now, all of these are due next week. Again, by next week we're going to I think we're going to take the module 4 test together, and we'll take the summary test together. So if you get a chance and you want to take it beforehand, that's perfectly fine. That way you could help me out when we are running through them together next week. But if you want it to be a surprise, that's fine too. Don't study the exams till we do them together. So next week, that's what we're going to do. Next week is our last week. That's when, by the way, as far as your vouchers, we're going to have to send you an email with instructions on what voucher, how to use the voucher. We'll give you a voucher and tell you how to use it. And the study guide that I talked about, I'm gonna put it somewhere where you can't miss it. And I'm thinking I'll put it right here under schedule of activities. I'll have a page right there that says, study guide. And I normally only allow a week for you guys to take your certification exam. And the reason for that is that I don't want you to wait and forget things. So watch your email for for instructions on how to essentially register for that exam and then take it. There will be an online test, by the way. You'll take it from home.
Do you only get one chance?
Yes. But if your score is really, really close, I know that I know that we want you to succeed. So sometimes we're able to pay for another voucher and give it to you.
Okay.
So you get one chance at the exam. Yep.
And the 70 is passing?
70 is passing. Yep.
Okay.
And you'll see next week when we do the summary test together, the look and feel of the summary test and that PSEP are the same. So same kind of tricks, same kind of types of questions. So really, I think if you're good at understanding what we just did in lectures and homework assignments makes sense to you, you guys will easily get 90s or above on this exam. And everyone else almost left me, so it's just Alma and Julius. I know, so I guess we know who'll be passing this course, right? Or the exam, right? I don't know if they'll watch the videos. So, okay, good. If there aren't any questions, we call it a night. We'll see you guys next week. So if you have any questions, by the way, that you've written up, maybe you bring it over and then we could even share screen and have you, you run a code and say, this is giving me problems. But the best way to do that is to probably email me. That way I'll give me enough time to give you feedback. Okay. All right. Good. We'll see you guys next week.